I promised to marry my childhood best friend as a kid. When I came home, she made me prove I meant it. I was 10 years old when I slipped a cheap plastic ring onto Emma's finger under the giant oak tree behind her parents' house. "Promise you'll marry me when we grow up," I whispered. She grinned, her front tooth still missing, and held out her pinky. "Only if you promise never to forget me." We sealed it with a pinky swear and buried the ring inside a tiny glass jar beneath the tree. At 10, promises felt eternal. At 28, life had other plans. I hadn't seen Emma in 12 years. Not because I didn't want to, because I was ashamed. After high school, my father lost everything. We moved across the country overnight. I promised Emma I'd call every week. For a while, I did. Then college happened. Work happened. Life happened. Eventually the calls became texts. The texts became birthdays. Then, silence. Every once in a while I'd think about her. I'd wonder if she'd married someone. If she still lived in Maple Creek. If she'd forgotten about that ridiculous promise under the oak tree. Then, one rainy Tuesday afternoon, my mother called. Emma's grandmother passed away. My heart sank. Wilson had treated me like family. "I should go," I said quietly. "You should," Mom replied, "and maybe it's time you stopped running from your past." 3 days later, I was driving into the little town I'd once sworn I'd never leave. Nothing had changed. The bakery still smelled like cinnamon. The hardware store still had the squeaky front door. Even the old diner still had the faded neon sign. It felt like stepping into a photograph. Except, everyone had grown older, including me. After the funeral, people gathered outside the church. I was talking with an old teacher when I heard someone behind me. "So?" The voice froze me in place. "You actually came back." I turned. Emma. She looked different, older, more confident. Her long brown hair rested over one shoulder, and her soft smile carried years of memories. They were exactly the same. "I almost didn't recognize you," I admitted. She laughed. "Liar." "I mean it." "No." She crossed her arms playfully. "You recognized me immediately." She was right. I had. "I heard you live in Chicago now," she said. "I do." "Big career?" "I guess." "Happy?" That question hit harder than I expected. "Work a lot." She nodded slowly. "That's not what I asked." Before I could answer, someone called her name. She smiled politely. "I have customers waiting." "Customers?" "I own the bakery now." "The bakery?" "My grandmother left it to me." I looked toward Main Street. "The same bakery?" "The very one." "I'm glad." "So am I." She started walking away, then stopped. Without turning around, she asked, "Do you remember the promise?" Every muscle in my body tightened. "The one under the oak tree." I swallowed. "I remember." She looked back over her shoulder. "Good." Then she smiled. "Because I do too." And she walked away. That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I found myself standing beneath the old oak tree. Somehow, it was still there. The branches stretched across the sky exactly as I remembered. Without thinking, I knelt beside the trunk. There was no way. After all these years, I started digging. 5 minutes later, my fingers hit glass. My heartbeat exploded. The tiny jar. Inside, the faded plastic ring, and a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it carefully. In messy 10-year-old handwriting, it read, "If you ever come back, don't say sorry. Just prove you meant your promise." I stared at those words until I heard footsteps behind me. I wondered if you'd find it. I turned. Emma stood beneath the moonlight. She had known. "You left this?" I asked. She nodded. "I checked every birthday." "You came here every year?" "Every single one." Guilt washed over me. "I'm sorry." She raised a hand. "No, you don't get to apologize." "I don't?" She smiled. "When you were 10, you made me one promise." "I know. So now, She stepped closer. If you really meant it. She looked into my eyes. Prove it. The words, prove it, echoed in my mind long after Emma walked away. I stood beneath the oak tree, the faded plastic ring still resting in my palm. How was I supposed to prove a promise I had broken years ago? The next morning, I found myself standing outside Wilson's bakery before sunrise. The lights inside were already on. Emma was kneading dough behind the counter, her sleeves rolled up, a little flour dusting her cheek. She looked up as the bell over the door rang. I had a feeling you'd come. I'm here to prove it. She smiled, but not warmly. We'll see. She slid a fresh apron across the counter. Put it on. What? You said you're serious. I am. Then congratulations. She folded her arms. You're my newest employee. I blinked. I don't know anything about baking. You'll learn. And if I burn everything, you'll clean everything. She wasn't joking. For the next 3 hours, I mixed dough, dropped trays, burned a batch of croissants, and somehow managed to spill an entire bag of flour across the kitchen floor. Emma laughed so hard, she had to hold onto the counter. There he is. What? The clumsy boy I grew up with. I've improved. She looked around at the disaster I'd created. Have you? I couldn't help laughing too. For the first time in years, it felt easy. Around noon, an elderly customer walked in. He smiled at Emma. He looked at me. This the famous boy? Emma rolled her eyes. Please don't. Too late. The old man chuckled. She used to tell everyone she was going to marry the neighbor boy. My face turned bright red. Emma's wasn't much better. I was 10, she muttered, and stubborn. I still am. I know. The old man winked at me. Don't waste your second chance. After he left, silence filled the bakery. Emma avoided my eyes. I never stopped believing you'd come back. Those words hit harder than I expected. You really waited? She nodded once. Not for marriage. She smiled sadly. For an explanation. I looked down. I didn't think you wanted one. I deserved one. She was right. Of me? No. Then what? That you'd realize I wasn't the same person anymore. Emma stepped closer. None of us are. Her voice softened. But that doesn't mean we're strangers. That afternoon, she handed me another challenge. Come with me. She drove us to the community center. Children filled the playground. They're waiting. For what? You promised to help. You just don't remember. Every Saturday, Emma taught free baking classes for local kids. Within minutes, I was surrounded by flour-covered 6-year-olds asking impossible questions. Mister, why is bread squishy? Mister, can cookies be blue? Mister, are you Emma's boyfriend? The last question made every adult in the room laugh. Emma hid her smile behind a mixing bowl. Don't know. P. The little girl frowned. P. You should figure it out. Even Emma couldn't stop laughing. P. Watching her with those children. I remembered exactly why I'd fallen in love with her when we were kids. She made everyone around her feel safe, seen, important. And ILs. As the sun began to set, Emma and I locked the bakery together. You survived day 1. Barely. She handed me a small paper bag. Inside was a warm cinnamon roll. My reward? No, she smiled. Your test isn't over. There's more? Oh, much more. She pointed across the street. See that old house? My old house. It belongs to the town now. I nodded. They're tearing it down next month. A strange ache settled in my chest. Go inside. Why? You'll understand. The front door creaked open exactly like it always had. Dust floated through the fading sunlight. Everything was gone, except one room. My old bedroom. Sitting on the windowsill was a small wooden box. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were dozens of letters, every one addressed to me. None of them had ever been mailed. The first one read, "Today I got accepted into college. I wanted to tell you first." The second, "Grandma is sick. I wish you were here." Another, "Happy birthday. I still hope you're happy." Then the last one, written only 3 weeks earlier. "If you ever come home, I won't ask where you've been. I'll only ask whether you're staying." I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. A soft voice came from the doorway. "I wrote one every year." I turned. Emma was standing there. "I never mailed them." "Why?" "Because promises work both ways." She slowly walked toward me. "I promised I'd wait until you came home." She gently touched the old plastic ring, still resting in my hand. Her eyes searched mine. "You've worked in my bakery. You've met my kids. You've faced your past. But there's still one thing left." I looked at her. "What is it?" Emma smiled through tears. "Now you have to decide. Did you come home for a visit? Or did you finally come home for me?"